right. Good morning, everyone. At least for those of you that are watching or listening live. For those of you watching or listening in syndication, I've got no idea what time of day you're actually watching or listening, so we'll just let that ride. But welcome to another episode of How I Met Your Mortgage. As always, I am your host, Adam Smith, with Just the Tips Coaching, and with me, as always, is one of our other coaches and our marketing director, Jen Wayboer. Good morning, Jen.
Good morning.
And we've got a really cool guest for you guys today, and we'll tell a little bit of background on it. But I can't say enough nice things about our guest today, Phylecia Jones. Good morning, Phylecia. How are you?
I'm awesome. How are you?
Good. So, Phylecia got an incredible background. She's spoken at multiple TED Talks. I'm going to let her tell you guys about her and what we talk about, but I think it's important from a background perspective for you guys watching and listening to understand that we've had quite a bit of interaction with Phylecia over, what's a couple of years now. We saw her speak at a social media day event, and she then invited us to a private event of hers in Florida leading up to PodFest. And she's going to be one of the speakers at the Mile High Mastermind here just next month, as hard as that is to believe. But Jen and I were actually with Phylecia in Orlando when the world started to fall apart at the early part of March. I think we all agreed. We just flew back home, and you're actually local. You're here in Denver as well. I think we flew back on the 8th and 9th of March. Does that sound about right, ladies?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the following Monday was my birthday. So there you go.
And that was the day we went on shelter-in-place orders in Colorado. Yep. So, yeah, we don't actually blame Phylecia for what's going on, but it seems like, coincidences exist for a reason. So for all of you watching, listening, this whole thing might be her fault. We'll just have to figure out. Yeah, the contact tracing may go all the way back to PodFest in Orlando and Phylecia. And unfortunately, we love spending time with you, and we haven't really been able to see you or hang out with you or even talk to you in all this time. So this, you being on the podcast this week, is really exciting for us, and obviously we will get to see you, although not all of you, because we'll have to wear masks, so on and so forth. But we'll get to see you next month, which is really cool for us and for our audience. So, Phylecia, I've always kind of regaled you as the person who knows how to get people who want to be public speakers on stage. And that's just how I identify you, as if you want to be on stage, you want to be a public speaker, you want to learn the ins and outs, the path of how to get from A to B, you are the person to speak to about this. Give us a little background on how you became that person.
Oh my gosh, that's a loaded question. How many hours do we have?
We're going to cut it off in 6.
Oh, 6 hours. Okay,
6 hours.
Perfect. I have nowhere to go.
It's like Joe Rogan's podcast here. Sometimes it's 10 minutes. Sometimes it's 3 days. We don't know.
Yeah. Well, so I started off speaking kind of when I launched my business. So my background is in computer science, and I got my master's in systems engineering. So I worked for the Navy as a scientist. And when I moved from San Diego to Denver, I worked for a different agency when I came here under the Department of Defense, but eventually I took an early retirement so that I could start a business. And it was all around money coaching and trying to help people budget. Yay. People love budgeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was all around trying to help people budgeting, solo business owners. And one of the things that one of my coaches told me what to do was to go out and start speaking. And, my brain was like, okay, I don't want to do public speaking or anything like that. But it was the one thing that worked, because I'm not great at social media, and the marketing thing was so new to me coming into business. And I actually just started doing it and went out there. And one of the things that I think was helpful was my background in research. And it was just so easy for me to go and research and find stages to get on to help market that business. And eventually, as people started asking me, how do you do this? And I was like, it's called the internet. And they were like, it doesn't work for me the same way. I was like, yes, it does.
It was a different internet.
It was a different, I got the magic internet.
Right.
But my ultra researchy logical brain was like, it's the internet, just go find it. And people were kind of struggling. So I just came up with a way to start helping people look for these gigs, because what I found was I like the challenge of finding the gigs and trying to figure out how to get a yes. The most surprising thing that happens to me sometimes is that when people actually do say yes, and I have to get on stage, and it's like, oh, you actually want me to talk to people in person? Like, okay, I can do that. I can do it. I was just trying to get the yes, but okay. So that's kind of how it started. And then eventually, about a year ago, just transitioned and launched the company I Find You Close, where we go out and just search for opportunities for people and send them an opportunity. So it's been really cool, especially this year, seeing major changes in live events.
Yeah, I'll bet that's true. And actually, that's a really good subject to get into. Jen and I are talking about the Mastermind event. This is the fourth year we've done it. Obviously, it's the first year we've ever done it with the current state of the world. And
why is there something going on?
Oh,
I think so.
Yeah, there was a delay in the hockey season.
Ah, that's it. Okay.
Yeah, they just started that up.
Okay, just a little minor slowdown.
Yeah, that was it. Nothing else major, I assure you. There's nothing to see here.
No,
nothing to see, folks. Move on. But Jen and I did participate in a virtual event. I spoke to a colleague's group of coaching clients or potential coaching clients on Just the Tips content. And we learned a lot about what's going on with virtual conferences as we're discussing the Mile High Mastermind event. And obviously, as we're going into our fourth year, we've got a lot on our minds as far as, do we do the event? Do we not do the event? Do we risk losing the traction that we've built up over the previous few years? Do we do it virtually and run the risks of what we witnessed with our colleagues' first virtual conference? How do the speakers feel? How do the attendees feel? What kind of numbers are we going to be limited to? And I'm guessing that all of these issues that circumnavigate live conferences, and actually Jen and I had a couple of different speaking engagements at one that was supposed to be next week, and that was canceled last week, and just completely canceled. They just said, nope, we'll just do it next year. Okay, interesting. But you've probably seen a major shift in this live conference work to this virtual conference work when you're dealing with your clients and people that do want help getting in front of people, getting on stage, getting audiences. What have the last 5 months looked like from a 10,000-foot view of that kind of shift from in-person to, oh God, not another Zoom meeting?
I know. Right? Zoom face.
Yeah.
It's literally been keeping us on our toes. So I have another researcher, and like every week we're just going back and forth. We see some things and then they just disappear. And we have to remember that a lot of this started actually in January. So we were watching this, I think when they had their first case in Wuhan of coronavirus. And then we started seeing some of the bigger international events started getting canceled, like January and February. And then, of course, I think South by Southwest, when we were together, it canceled. So it was we were just making a list of events that were canceling. And then we saw the early stages of people trying to shift to virtual, and some were okay, some were interesting because everybody jumped into the virtual world. And what we're seeing now is that a lot of events, some have just, like you said, canceled and just went straight into next year. And they're not even trying to go virtual. Some have tried to do a hybrid model where they'll do a little mini event leading up to their 2021 event. Gosh, for anybody who's doing any type of live stream, I mean, that's a great game to get into now, monitoring live streams of live events. So it's literally been all over the place. And I think over the summer, we did see where there weren't a whole lot of events. And I like to say quality events, because now everybody and their mom can put on a live event over social media, and so you're not getting the quality. And a lot of the events that did cancel, they took their speakers with them into 2021. Some are taking their speakers into 2022. So that's how crazy all of this is. So, and then they're letting their speakers do the virtual pieces if they're doing a hybrid. So our new model going forward is going to be this hybrid event where the overhead may be a little bit lower for them, but they're still spending so much money on technology just to make it happen. Podfest. So right now, Podfest, they're doing a global summit actually this week, and they're doing it with Hova, is HO.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we used it when we were in Florida.
Yeah, I know. It's Hoover or Hova. I don't know. I'm thinking about Jay-Z every time I say it. But they're actually doing the event inside of the app. And from what I can understand, it is not the cheapest thing or the easiest thing to do. So everybody's getting creative, but as far as speakers, there's still just a lot of opportunity to get out there and market your business. It's different. It's extremely different than being in front of a live audience. And you also got to pay attention to 2021. I'm telling everyone, you got to start marketing for 2021 now, because we're hoping, fingers crossed, that we get more live events coming back and you can get in front of a live audience. But you're also in the world of competition. All of the big time speakers, that's who you're competing with now, because they don't have jobs either. So it's been a roller coaster of just watching how all of this is playing out. So it's been fun.
Entertaining for sure.
It's entertaining, or it makes you cry. I don't know, whichever one you're feeling that day.
So what kind of snippets, tidbits, advice would you give to the, fledgling speaker? Somebody who, right before the pandemic decided, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get on stage. I'm going to seek somebody like Phylecia out to help me do this. And then, of course, boom, the entire world changes, particularly the public speaking world, because we don't want to be in public. Stay away from large crowds of people. That's kind of like rule number one right now. And wash your hands a lot. So what would you say to somebody who, even a year ago, decided that they wanted to foray into this? I want to become a public speaker. I'm going to use it to help my business, to define my brand, whatever the case may be. And then there's this huge shift in the world, particularly when we talk about being in front of or with or near other people. What kind of advice are you giving to these people these days?
For those who are just starting to get into the world of public speaking, and I've been giving this advice to even some of the experienced speakers, you need to probably stop for a little while and pay attention to what is going on, because your goal right now is to stay relevant. That's it. Your goal is to stay relevant and in front of people. And what I'm seeing for a lot of people is that they are not, we have messages that worked a year ago. And right now, with so much going on with the effects of coronavirus and how people are dealing with it, it's time for us to figure out how to be relevant inside of the reality of what's going on. That means being relevant if you are a marketing and sales speaker. Some of the things that we did a year ago in 2018 may not work right now. And it's a great time to be creative and pay attention. I mean, social media is a little crazy because that's a special version of cray cray these days, but it does give you a good idea of how people are thinking, how companies are thinking, and this is a great way for you to figure out how to have a relevant message going forward. So the biggest thing is stay relevant, pay attention to what's going on, still work on your craft. I mean, if you can get out there and get on some of the live events, that's great. It's never going to be the same as being in front of an audience, but you still need to practice. And all of those other things that are going on with speaking, your websites, your speaker one sheets, your photos, your messaging, you can still work on that and reach out to people. And one of the biggest things I'm telling folks, when you're reaching out to people, pretend that you're talking to a human. Everybody knows what's going on, and kind of get on the side of empathy when it comes to people dealing with events, because event planners, I mean, you know what it's like. It's just stressful.
Yep.
It is stressful. And even leading up to my event when we were all together in March, I mean, that was right when we were starting getting more news about coronavirus. And you all don't know this, but literally the night before, I had speakers cancel. It was I was just in the room like, okay, like we're just going to sit here and just kind of go with it. So I'm just telling people to treat folks like humans because everybody's dealing with it right now.
Wow. No, I had no idea that people were canceling on you the day before. And that was a
Oh,
limited
yeah.
audience. I think you only allowed like 30 people to
Yeah.
participate in your event anyway.
That's crazy.
So, yeah, no, we had no idea. So, on that note, before I digress, that was amazing. Jen and I had a great time that day. We learned a ton that day, and that you were scrambling last minute in that manner, and that none of us knew is huge. Kudos to you, because that was certainly not easy to deal with. Although I
No.
do want to say that when we do get back to being able to do these kinds of events in a normal manner, particularly from a planning perspective, it will seem easy. The stress level of dealing with this event right now is going to make the future.
No pandemics to deal with?
Right.
What?
Yeah.
Give me a challenge.
I'm not. Give me a challenge. Maybe then we'll get the zombie apocalypse.
Even better.
Even better. Everybody bring an automatic rifle to the mastermind because we may have to pick off zombies trying to get into the hotel ballroom.
I like Rick Edelman. He's a financial advisor I listen to on the radio. And, people are always talking about the end of the world. He was like, look, when the end of the world comes, all you need is a gun, whiskey, and a generator. And just write that out. He said, because your whiskey is going to be your currency. And if you have a generator, you need to protect it. I was like, man, he's smart. So
Wow.
we're prepared here in this house.
Generator, whiskey, and a gun. Okay.
And tampons. You need cotton.
That's probably a good one. All right. All right. Those of you listening, take note. Tampons. That's going to be item number 3 on your list of what to hoard in a zombie apocalypse.
Hey.
Got it. Okay. But there's so much of this that rings true back to everything that we talk about, almost with every guest in every presentation at every event. There's some really important things here that I want to simplify a little bit for our audience. And number one is your audience. So when Phylecia is saying, check out what some of these big companies are doing, what their temperature is, how they're dealing with events, with employees, are they closing down offices? Everybody's going to work from home from here on out, or the majority, whatever the case may be. These are really good indicators as to what your future speaking career may look like, what kind of audiences you would have, what kind of companies you want to be in front of that are either going to revitalize previous typical activities, ones that are going to do things in a very different manner. But just like we say, no matter what you're doing, including public speaking, social media, video work, writing, whatever the case may be, audience first. What does your audience want to see, hear, read, write, or see, hear, read, listen to, excuse me. And this is no different. You guys have got to be doing solid research about your audience, your future potential audiences, and where they're at, where they're moving, what kind of changes they're making, because that is going to be a golden path of sorts for you guys to figure out how to get back into this normal speaking arena. Some of the companies that would have had you as a speaker this year may never have an event where they have speakers again.
It may not exist anymore.
Yeah, right. Yeah, good point. Those companies, well, if they're making those kinds of adjustments and they've got that kind of forethought, then we'd hope. And good luck to every company out there, small, medium, large, or otherwise. We certainly hope that the economic struggles aren't taking too great a toll and that you will come back bigger, badder, and stronger than you were even before the pandemic. But yeah, I just want to make sure that we ring true in that arena again. All of you, no matter what you're doing in your prospecting, your lead gen, your marketing, audience first. Audience first. What do these people want to see, hear, read, watch? So pay close attention to that kind of stuff going forward, particularly if it's something where you want to get back into or get into speaking in front of large audiences, because that will make a big impact. On that note, Phylecia, what do you hear about PodFest 21, 22? Because that a great event. They had a great event even at the onset of the pandemic, and we knew hundreds, if not thousands, of people had canceled, and they were still able to have a spectacular event. I hope that rings true for them in the future.
You know what? I've talked to Chris Krimitsos. He is the founder and owner of Podfest, and I'm actually talked to him last week. And everything seems to be going very well. Right now, they're doing the Global Podfest Summit. You can actually sign up for free. So I'm actually going to be speaking for them on Thursday night. It's been going on for 2 weeks. He's trying to reach the Guinness Book of World Records for the largest online event. So go sign up for that. But from what I hear, he is tentatively moving Podfest 2021 to May of next year in Tampa. So fingers are crossed that everything goes well, that we can get back in Florida and get together again. So so far he's doing well, and we had a lot of talks leading up to Podfest and that week of, hey, I think this may be the last week of live events. And I think we got in right before everything stopped. And just as somebody who runs an event, just seeing all of the background, dealing with hotels, renegotiating contracts. Some of the other friends I know had other events later on this year. So it's a really big, I don't know if it's a mess or if it's just a lot of challenges when you have to reshift an entire conference with thousands of people attending. So I have wanted to hug every last one of them because I know it's stressful.
Oh, yeah, we know. And yeah, even considering what they had to deal with in the early stages of this pandemic, they did a really good job pulling it together. The only thing I can think of that stood out in my mind as a deficit is the hotel ran out of hand sanitizer.
Mm.
that was the
That's
only
true.
deficiency I could see. And
I brought so much hand sanitizer. It's crazy.
I would be willing to bet that they were pulling their hair out in a panic the night before, the day before, the week before, leading up to the event, just like you were dealing with, a speaker canceling the night before. Holy cow. I hope we don't have any of that. Two.
Yeah, I had two that canceled the night before. What I always tell people who are speakers, if you can get, and I understand everything is about marketing, but if you can kind of get on the side of the people who are running events, I mean, gosh, it's like a gold mine of understanding what they're going through instead of just talking at them and saying, I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread. Like, okay, but we're running a whole event here. But I just try to tell people, be human, because there's so many things going on in the background. And right now, we don't need divas when it comes to events.
Yeah, that's good advice, period. But certainly right now, just be human.
And it goes along, and be nice to people. Amazing how that works.
Yeah. Well, and I've always thought that was important because you don't know what those other people are going through.
You don't know what other people are going through, and you also don't know who they know. That's the other thing. You don't know who they're connected to. Even when you're out networking, when you're meeting people, it's in your best interest to always stay open-minded. Now, if somebody gives you the creepy vibes, okay, I get it. But always just be open-minded, because you never know who's watching you. You never know who you're sitting next to. You never know what room you'll go into and who you'll meet. When we were at Podfest, just happened to walk into a room and some people were speaking, didn't even know what was going on, but eventually heard the two former vice presidents of Disney World speak, and it was quite amazing of what they were talking about when it comes to customer engagement and marketing. But you just have to be open to all the people that you'll meet when it comes to networking and doing business.
Certainly, and that will pay dividends in the virtual world as well right now.
Oh,
Don't
yes,
forget,
it will.
guys, we're actually meeting people. You guys are all meeting Phylecia today. So, yeah, take advantage and be nice to her. Be human, because actually Jen and I do know who she knows.
Yeah.
And you want to know the people she knows. So, yeah, that's definitely a very, very important one, no question. Okay, so Phylecia, let's circle back a little bit about you. If I am contemplating this foray into public speaking, and it's not really for me because I'm shy, but if I'm in that category, what do I need to know? Particularly, how do I connect with you? And what kinds of things am I going to learn at the onset of hanging out with Phylecia in my path to becoming a great public speaker? I want to do TED Talks. I'm going to call Phylecia first, and one, how do I do that? And then two, what happens after?
Well, gosh, if you hang out with me, all you're going to do is learn how to make a margarita. That's about it.
For now, right?
Yeah.
And apparently the 3 or 4 things you need in a zombie apocalypse.
Hey, we have planned this out. I studied I Am Legend at the beginning of this coronavirus thing. I am an expert. Um, so if you want to come and hang out with me, you can go check us out at ifindyoukclothes.com. That's I, not your eyeball, but ifindyoukclothes.com. And the handle is the same on all of the social media platforms. My personal platform is Keep Up with Mrs. Jones. And you can find me on Instagram and Twitter. But if you ever just want to hang out and learn about speaking, there's a button on one of the websites and you can sign up and talk to me for about 15 minutes. And I answer any questions. I try to be as open as possible about answering questions when it comes to speaking and the reality of getting on a TEDx talk. I usually tell people, if you want to talk TED, you need to buy a bottle of wine because we need to have a very long talk about that, because that's just a whole different experience. It's fun, but a very different experience when it comes to speaking. I try to be open as much as possible. If you go to ifindyoukclothes.com, there is a button that says, hey, let's just get on the phone and just talk. Yeah. I just answer any questions when it comes to speaking. So, and my goal really is to help you. If this is what you want to do, I will help you as much as possible. I'll be realistic as much as possible, and I'll try to give you as many hacks when it comes to wanting to get on stage and reaching out to the right people. I spent the last 4 years as a speaker coordinator for 2 groups here in Denver, Colorado. So I have been on the other side of all of the pitches, seeing all of the assets that people have. And my goal is to help you not get rejected too quickly all the time.
Too quickly all the time.
Yeah.
And for those of you watching or listening, I can attest, Jen and I spent an entire day in a very private, intimate event with Phylecia when we were in Orlando. And yes, she knows lots of tips and hacks and things that would prevent you from getting rejected all the time away.
Don't get rejected, because I could show you my inbox of rejects.
Well, there's in anything sales related, there's a lot to that, and we've always held by the formula: you got to hear so many no's before you hear a yes. Those kinds of things.
Yeah,
so,
but there's a way to do it.
there is a way to do it.
I will give everybody a tip. So for those of you listening, watching, here's one tip. Especially if you're pitching through email, first do your research about the event. Because most people and Adam and Jen, I know you know when somebody's pitching to be on your show, you can tell if they've either listened to the show or not listened to the show. So do your research before you even send out an email. And the very first email you want to send out to anyone that you're interested in is who books your speakers? That's it. Because your goal is to create a relationship, not send the 5-paragraph essay of how amazing you are. I'm pretty sure your mom thinks you're amazing. In my inbox, not really. So just start a conversation.
My mom and
that's
my
all
grandma.
You want to do.
I got 2.
Are they booking you though?
Oh, as often as they can. Absolutely.
Hey, if that works, go with it.
Yeah.
But the goal is, just simply ask who books your speakers, and you want to start a conversation. You don't want to go in with, I am amazing, I'm amazing, I'm amazing, because you'll just get deleted. That's how amazing you are. You'll get deleted.
Well, and I've always kind of maintained the mindset that it's not about how amazing you are. It's about how amazing your content is. And that's got to really be drilled down for your audience. Again, what do they want to see, hear, read, listen to? And if you haven't done your research on the event, how do you even know if your content is appropriate for that audience?
Yeah, it happens more than you think, of people just doing the copy and paste emails and sending them out to people. I'm not saying that it doesn't work. I mean, yeah, if you send 1,000, 10 people probably will book you. But it would be best, if you want to get booked on a regular basis, is to do that research, figure out who you're talking to, and also have a slight mind shift, because sometimes what we do, we always think that the audience is our potential client. Actually, it's the person running the event or booking the speakers. That's who your client is, and that's who you have to appeal to.
Yeah, that's really well said. All right, and just because it's something that stuck with me when I saw you speak at Social Media Day, when I saw you at Podfest, I'm sure you'll cover a lot of this at the Mile High Mastermind next month. And I know things are different now, but 2019 and earlier, how many conferences per day were there in this country?
There were 5,000 events happening every day in the United States.
Every day, 5,000.
Every day.
Amazing.
I don't know what's happening now.
now it's 4.5.
Maybe,
but 12,000 virtual ones. So,
we just don't have it. But it was like 1.4 million events happening every year. And now I'm pretty sure when we get the numbers, it'll be toward the end of the year of what happened. It'll be interesting just to see the changes.
I'll bet it's dramatic. No question. Wow. Yeah, I will want to circle back with you next year and hear what that looks like for sure. All right. Well,
it's going to be fun.
Thank you for joining us. I'm constantly in amazement of how quickly a half hour goes by, but when it's somebody who we're really interested in and we have a friendship with, it obviously goes by that much faster. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
Obviously, we'll get to see you next month, which is really cool. And for those of you that already have tickets for the Mile High Mastermind, and I think we are just about at our limit. We've probably got a few openings, although that may very well be the end of that this week. You guys are going to be able to catch some really cool content from Phylecia on being a public speaker and how to accelerate that and how to get your public speaking and whatever avenue that's going to provide for your business, your brand forward. So it will be really cool stuff for you to be able to participate in. So yeah, Phylecia, thank you for doing this.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Always amazed at how willing to help and gracious you are about this stuff. So thanks. She's just being human, guys. So for those of you watching and listening, this is Phylecia being human. All right.
You can send me treats. Send me treats. Yay.
Apparently a bottle of wine is on that list.
Actually, I've been exercising, so I just take a gallon of water these days.
All right. All right. So for those of you watching live, thank you. If you're watching in syndication or listening to the podcast, thank you for doing that as well. If you want more information about us, about Phylecia, about the Mastermind event, how to be a guest on the show, previous episodes of the show, our weekly little tip, which will be back next week. We've been suffering through a 30-day Facebook jail sentence. For those of you that aren't up to speed on that, I shot some video of a bread dough kneading in my bread machine, and Facebook flagged that as nudity. And I've been in Facebook jail for 30 days over a loaf of bread. I would suspect the weekly little tip next week will cover some of that content. Yeah, we'll have a good time at Facebook's expense next week.
You just don't offend the bread community. Come on.
Right. Yeah. I'm sorry. From now on, I will only post bread that's actually been baked, is therefore clothed in a crust, and we will refrain from the raw, nude bread dough going forward. All right.
Thank you.
So, yes. And thank you to all of you. So in any case, if you want any of this information, use our text code. You can text TIPS to 63566, and it will ping you back all of those goodies. Again, Phylecia, thanks for being here. Jen, I'm not missing anything we want to pepper her about, am I?
I don't think so. I'm really excited to see you next month, though, Phylecia.
Yeah, bring your Sprite can, please.
I'll bring it just for you. Just for you. I'll save it.
Wow, we're gonna give away a Sprite?
Just one.
That's Sprite, just one. But they were so excited to give it to you.
If you haven't seen my video, I did a live video because my apartment complex gave me a can of Sprite. So if you haven't seen it, you got to go find it because it's pretty funny.
They precursory emailed you saying a gift is coming for all of our tenants. We're so excited that you're our tenant. We're going to drop a gift on your porch.
They didn't even wrap it.
No.
They didn't even do a six-pack. It's a single can of Sprite.
It wasn't even cold. Like...
All right, I think on that note, I'm going to run the extra. Thank you all for watching and listening, and we will see you next week. Bye.